quorum, so we'll get started at 6 o'clock or 6:02 if those clocks are, if that clock's right. No, this one says 6 o'clock straight up on the iPad, so we'll go with that. Welcome to the May 16th Citizens Advisory Committee for the Costa Mesa Sanitary District. I'd like to thank you all for the work that you've done in my absence, and I'd like to apologize for my absence. I had a class that I didn't think I would be teaching on Wednesdays, and I had been this semester, but it's over now, after finals. So let's start with roll call.
Sue Lester, Stephen Takahashi,
Here.
Phil Marsh, Monty Fields,
Here.
Mike McElroy,
Here.
Judy Takaya, Judy Gilo, Elodie Katz, Andrew Nielsen, Albert Graham Jr., Mike Carey.
Here. Okay, added one more. We're back. All right. Now we have an opportunity for public comments. Would anybody in the public like to speak? Mr. Moser? No? Okay, thank you. Okay, next agenda item is the introduction of the new CAC members.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am pleased to announce and introduce to you three of our newest CAC members, Mr. Stephen Takahashi, Miss Judy Gilo, and Miss Judy Takaya, who is excused from this meeting. She's in Amsterdam at her son's wedding, so she apologizes for not being able to be here tonight. We also have our two returning CAC members, Mr. Monty Fields and Miss Sue Lester, who have been reappointed to the CAC. So welcome, and thank you all for being a part of it.
Welcome, new members. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to approve our minutes from the, what is that, March 28th meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, March 13th. I'm looking at the next item. From the March 13th item, or meeting, I wasn't here, so I'll abstain. So did everybody have an opportunity to review the minutes? Okay, we have a motion to approve.
Make
Do we
a
have a
motion to approve.
Yep, I think Elodie made the first motion, so we're just looking for a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The next item on the agenda is just to receive and file the minutes from the Board of Directors special meeting on March 28th. Are there any comments from that meeting? No? Hearing none, we'll just receive and file. Next item on the agenda is the draft Board of Directors regular meeting minutes of April 25th. Also receive and file if there's no comments. No comment. Okay, this is a biggie. The next item on the agenda is the preliminary budget review for fiscal year 2019-2020 and 2020 and 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'm going to turn this over to Caitlin Tran, our new finance manager. She's going to be giving you a report on our budget. Before she starts, though, I just wanted to say this is, we do a 2-year budget, which is for the next 2 fiscal years. This is the committee's opportunity after Caitlin gives her presentations to ask any questions you have on the budget. If there's something you see missing that should be in the budget or something we should plan for budget, please let us know, and we will bring your comments forward to the board of directors for consideration. So I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin, and she's going to give you a presentation, and then we'll open up for questions.
Thank you, Scott. Good evening, Board of Directors and CAC members. My name is Caitlin Tran. Tonight, I'll be presenting to you the preliminary biannual budget for fiscal year 2019, 2020, and 2020 to 2021. So what is the process to compile this budget document? At the beginning of the year, each department submitted their budget request to Finance Department. Then we review their numbers, and we met and discussed, and we analyzed historical data. Then I submit that information to the general manager. He reviews the numbers and provide feedback. Then I prepare the preliminary budget document and present that to Board of Directors and CAC committee. And so on Tuesday, at the study session, the Board of Directors provided great feedback. And tonight I'm asking for your feedback so I can go back and update the preliminary budget document and bring this back to the June study session. Then in June, at the June 27 board meeting, a proposed budget will be presented for adoption. And then once the board adopt the budget, Finance will compile a budget document just like this one. This is the current biannual budget. The district will follow this budget document for 2 fiscal years. So let's start with fiscal year 2019-2020, Solid Waste Fund. Total preliminary budget for Solid Waste Fund is $6,512,000. The Solid Waste Fund will be operating at a deficit of $584,000. The Solid Waste Fund has been operating at a deficit. Therefore, a solid waste rate study has been conducted, and with the recommendation of a 5-year rate increase. If a majority of protest does not exist and the board approve the proposed rate increase on June 27, the solid waste rate will increase from $216 a year to $224.88 a year. So that makes the revenue budget for fiscal year 2019-20 a total revenue of $5,928,000. And 87% of that comes from the annual charge. And the annual charge is taking the annual rate times the number of accounts that we have. And the rest of the revenue comes from additional containers, investment earnings, contribution, charges for service, property taxes, and other non-operating. And then on the other side, you have expenditures. The total preliminary expenditures for fiscal year 2019 and 2020, solid waste expenditure of $6,512,000. 88% of the expenditures is from operations and maintenance. It includes payments to the trash hauler, utilities, building maintenance, equipment maintenance, staff development. So I place a copy of the budget document on there on your desk, on your table, and it lists out all the accounts under operations, and also on page 5 you can see all the budget detail of select accounts. So CR&R submitted a request for a CPI rate increase of 5.8%. Before the Board of Directors approved the CPI rate increase, the district is in the process of auditing their profit margin. For budgeting purposes, staff included the 5.8% rate request in this preliminary budget. So that's why the 88% operation, that 5.8% is included in there. And then moving on to wastewater. The good news is the district is not planning to increase wastewater rates for the next 2 fiscal years. The wastewater fund has a balanced budget of $5,935,000. Fiscal year 17-18 was the last fiscal year of the 5-year 2% rate increase. The total wastewater preliminary revenues budget for fiscal year 2019-2020 is $5,935,000. The wastewater preliminary revenue, the total wastewater preliminary revenue budget for fiscal year 2019-20 is $5,935,000. Of that, 94.5% of the revenue is from the annual charge. Again, it's the annual rate times the number of accounts. And the other 5.5% comes from investment earnings, charges for services, permits, inspections for sewer connections, and other non-operating. I'm sorry. And then for expenditures, where does your money go? 30.7% goes toward salaries and benefits. 39.8% goes toward operation and maintenance. And again, that's for equipment, materials, supplies, building maintenance, equipment maintenance, staff development, and the other 29.5% from capital improvement projects. And then moving on, fiscal year 2020-2021, starting with solid waste. Total preliminary budget for solid waste fund is $6,309,000. The solid waste fund will be operating at a deficit of $317,000 for this fiscal year. If the board approves the proposed rate increase on June 27, the solid waste rate will increase from $224.88 to $240.60 a year. The total solid waste preliminary revenue budget is $6,309,000. 87.5% of the revenue comes from the annual charge. And same method, it's the rate times the account. And then the other 12.2% of the revenues come from additional containers, investment earnings, contribution, charges for service, property tax, and non-operating revenue. And then again, you have expenditures. Majority of it, it's from operation and maintenance. And then on the wastewater side, the revenue, the rates will remain the same. Wastewater fund has a balanced budget of $5,945,000. The preliminary revenue budget is $5,945,000. 94.5% of the revenues come from the annual charge, and the rest from investment earnings, charges for service, and permits and inspection fees and non-operating revenue. And on the other side, again, you have you have the expenditures, salaries and benefits, operations and maintenance, and capital improvement projects. And you have a copy of the attachment C there on your table. Attachment C lists out all the capital improvement projects for the next 2 fiscal year. The first fiscal year, staff is requesting 3 new projects, and for the second year, there will be 6 new projects. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Yes.
I understand that the CR&R proposed rate increase is included in the budget, but I was just curious, and I don't know who would best be willing to this, but regarding the proposed solid waste rate increase to the taxpayers, was that increase included as far as trying to balance the deficit? Did we already know that there was an increase when we selected the proposed rate schedule for the 5 years?
Yes.
So we took that into account?
Yes. And it doesn't mean that the board will approve the 5.8%. We're still waiting for the audit. Yeah.
When was the last time we approved it?
This is their first time asking for a rate increase. I've been here 12 years and have to.
9 years.
Yeah.
They've had the contract since 2006, and since then, they've never asked for a rate increase.
Do they give any sort of justification when they request it?
CPI increase, and they'll say they'll need a CPI increase to cover additional expenses like increase in fueling price, salaries, overhead, stuff like that.
Do they take into account at all if our organics usage goes up, that we're providing them with more clean natural gas?
Yeah. That is, yes, when we negotiated with them, we did say, well, you're getting, we take that in consideration that you are going to be saving money on your fuel. So when we were negotiating this years back, that was taken into consideration.
And are you able to could you go back and say we don't want to approve it for the full amount but offer an alternative?
Yes, that's one of the stipulations we have in the agreement, that it's not automatic. Some cities have an automatic CPI increase with their waste haulers, and that means they just lose total control on the contracting. So we did not put that in our agreement. So the board has to approve it. So they have several decisions to make. They can either approve the full 5.8%, or they can not approve it, or they can make another decision, like they'll split it. Say, okay, we'll give you half. But it's totally up to the board's discretion.
When does the contract run out?
It just implemented. So we just implemented a brand new contract for another 10 years. That was just executed last year.
And so theoretically, could they come back with a new CPI rate increase annually?
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years, so
Every 2
this would
years,
cover
yes.
it for
Yes,
for
so they
2
could,
years.
they can ask, in the country, they can legally come in every 2 years, ask for a CPI increase.
And then to play off of Elodie's question, sort of, as she was mentioning, that if we're taking into consideration the amount of organic waste that's providing them more fuel, it's not taking into account possibly the rapidly deflating markets for recyclable materials that they're losing
true.
revenue on. That's not
Very true.
included in part of the equation.
Very true.
Are there any other questions? Yes.
Yes, my name is Judy Gila. I'm new, don't know what I'm doing, but I'm old too. And I'm downsizing at home. And I think there are other people like me. And I put out my trash cans less frequently because I don't fill them, because I am using the Orange Coast College even closer. Okay. So I'm wondering about considering, well, when I look at the idea that my bill is gonna go up, but I use less. It seems not fair somehow.
You should have been here a couple
Right,
of meetings
yeah.
ago. I think that would have been handled for
It was
you.
a spirited
Yeah,
discussion.
you needed to be here. We had that discussion.
Well, I'm
Okay.
wondering, can you have different levels? Does it all have to be, everybody pays this, and nothing, like it or lose it? Or can we have different levels?
Yeah, different rate structure based on, like,
Yeah.
some mine's further away. Some municipalities have a pay-as-you-throw, but that's,
If I may, Mr. Chairman, yes, we've had that discussion quite frequently. We looked at variable rates where residents who have the 90-gallon cart would pay more than residents that have a 64-gallon cart, and then those who have a 30-gallon cart would pay the less. So in your situation, you would get like a 30-gallon cart, and under the tier rates, you would be paying less. We've had that discussion. That was one of the recommendations in the solid waste study report. And so this committee, the CAC committee, did not recommend that, and the board agreed with the committee and agreed with having just a flat rate. So that idea was discussed many times, and it was just not approved.
Our records of our clients is not exactly accurate and pristine. I mean, it would require a big effort for us to go out into the community and identify those. Yeah, they all have different combos of the size of the trash cans. So it was just a little too much to overcome, or at least we thought so.
And the trucks aren't able to weigh how much you've thrown away. Like, maybe you don't fill your truck and your cash can up the whole way. You talk about volume as well, okay, so you can't do that.
And additionally, was someone brought up what I didn't really consider was the fact that there would be some folks that would abuse the system and get smaller cans and overflow the cans. And I didn't think about that, but someone brought that up, and I thought that was a great point to the fact that if we actually start to tier things, people will probably scale back from the 90s and go to the 30s, and then like you have everything overflowing out the top, and they're still using the same amount. And of course, I understand in your situation, you'll probably use half of the 30, but they'd be using maybe 110%, 120% of the 30 trash can. So, and again, with the cost, it just was, yeah, it just wasn't feasible.
Am I allowed to say something?
sure.
Okay. One thing about the trash cans and overflowing, when we first got them, they gave us cans and they said, you have to have your can closed. If it's not closed, we don't pick it up. So I don't think I don't think it has to be an overflow issue, because it's simple. If it overflows, you don't pick it up, so they better pull a few things out, and in the next week they can put it in the third week, the overflow part. I don't know what, we have cans, we have two 90-gallon cans, because when they were giving them out, they said, oh, take these, and there's no charge on your cans. And we have one that's the environmental can, and
the organic.
we have two of these 90s. I don't fill one of them, and in 2 weeks, I have very little to go in. So nobody's charging on the size of the cans yet. Perhaps it would be cost effective to find out just what size cans people have, or, you know, yeah.
There was a dollar amount associated with what we would have to do. The district here, nor CR&R, maybe CR&R has a count of who has what, but there is no real count. So it would all have to be counted. Every can in the city, basically, has to be counted. And that's, I think it was like 25 or 30,000. Yeah, $30,000 just to implement, just to start the program, you know. So
Yeah, just
kind
to
of
gather
upside
the-
down before you even get it going.
Right.
And that was one of the issues brought up too, what it's going to cost just to start this type of a tiered plan. So, that, like I said, if you were in here a few weeks ago, you would have, we had a whole night discussion of just that.
It seems like there's something amiss here, because there are people who could put out less in smaller cans even. But you're going to charge everybody, and I have these 2 pounders, and yet, nobody's charging me for them. Somebody's gotta count these things.
You're a good candidate for the smaller bins. I think you'd love them.
Could be. I'm certainly, well, when you start charging per can, then I think I might worry about it. It's just because they, the CRNR is the only organization in town or in the area.
No, they're the ones that the sanitary district is contracted with to
Right.
provide residential.
Yes.
There are other haulers, but CRNR is a contracted one for the sand district. Are there any other comments or questions for Caitlin? Yeah. Mr. Mosher?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Carey. My name is Jim Mosher. I am a resident of Newport Beach, but also a person within this district, at least as far as the sewer service. And the comment I wanted to make, which the staff will anticipate because I made the same comment at the Tuesday study session, was to bring to your attention, because I think as fellow citizens you might be interested in this. As I understand it, the budget to be approved will be in a slightly different format than you're seeing here, such as on the first page of attachment A. And the reason for that has to do with where the revenue comes to the district from and what restrictions come on that revenue. So some of it can be used for one purpose, some for another. One of the slides you saw here had, for the solid waste fund, a little piece of pie, small little orange piece that had said property tax, which to me has been a little confusing because everything I pay to I am not a solid waste customer of this district, yet everything I pay to the district is on my property tax bill. So I'm probably going to give a very garbled explanation of what this is about, but I'll make an attempt at it. Everybody who has property in California pays property tax. The property tax bill has a big amount at the top that's 1% of the assessed value of the property. And then under that 1%, it has some other itemized things that get tacked onto that for special bond issues, fees that we pay to the mosquito district, and the 2 big items that you see on attachment A. One of them is the itemized item for those properties that have trash service as a fee for the trash service paid to the district. And another itemized item is for the wastewater service, which I get, paid to the district. Those things are the subject of the Proposition 218 rate study and rate setting process, which comes with a whole lot of restrictions. Since Proposition 218 was enacted about 23 years ago, I think 1996 or something, that money under our California Constitution can only be used for the purpose that is identified in the rate study. It can only be used to benefit the property from which it's being collected. and it cannot be in any way a service that's offered to the public in general. So such a thing as the very laudable Citizens Academy that the district puts on, none of that money on the itemized things, as I understand, could be used to subsidize that unless that was restricted just to the people who paid that fee, and they were told what the purpose was. So some of the properties within this district in the 1% part of the property tax bill, also kind of a legacy from the pre-Proposition 13 days, pay a small fraction of that 1% to this district going into what's called a general fund, and the general fund can be used for, I'm not myself sure what the restrictions are on that. I think it has to do with the purposes for which the district was created. And so if you look on the attachment A, which is the first page of the budget, which I think is going to be a little different when it's approved, you'll see at the top lines there's two things that look like $5 million. Those are the restricted amounts coming in from Proposition 218 on the property tax bill, one for solid waste, one for wastewater. And you look kind of halfway down the page under non-operating revenue, you'll see property tax $320,000. The $320,000 is the unrestricted part that I think when this is approved is going to be put in a separate column. And then it becomes important that that is money that can be spent on a wide variety of uses. But the two $5 million amounts at the top, the other two columns are very restricted what they can be used for. They have to be for the benefit of the property owner who paid into them. And so I think in the budget as approved, you will be seeing that out of the $320,000, $50,000 is going to support the bridge shelter, which is for the advantage of the homeless. It's obviously not for the advantage of the property owners. It's not what they paid the fee for. And I think the amount going into the solid waste fund is going to be $270,000 instead of $320,000. So I thought that was interesting to know, and I wanted to share it with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moser.
Question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. In regards to the budget, I know we discussed a truck and also either revamping or repairing or redoing of, I can't remember.
The cleaning trucks?
The cleaning trucks?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And also the one building, I can't remember the name of the building.
The pump station as well as
The pump station?
Yeah, the pump station, I'm sorry. Was that considered in this budget here?
The truck you're talking about, that was that was approved, the allocation by the board of directors several months ago. We have an asset management replacement fund, and we recommended the board approved allocating like $450,000 from that budget, from that fund to purchase the vehicle, which is supposed to arrive in a few weeks. So that's been already purchased. The President Pump Station, yes, that is budgeted in the capital budget. So we are planning on spending that next fiscal year.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And the board took our decision on that one.
Oh, nice.
Yes, they recommended, the committee's recommendation, which was alternative, I want to say, it was the less expensive one. And so they approved that one. So our district engineer right now is right now hiring a consultant to test the integrity of the dry well to see if it can withstand those improvements. If it can, then we'll move forward with that recommendation made by the CEC for the I think it was alternative 2. Yes, it was alternative 2. And if not, then we'll come back to the board and recommend what the committee recommended was alternative number 3.
Regarding Mr. Mosher's comment, could you clarify the 320, like he said, if the rates that are being paid are through property taxes, what these additional property tax revenues are? Are they permit fees, or those are separate line items, I assume they're not?
Well, the property tax, it was a good question Mr. Mosher brought up because, and Mark can answer this. We don't know exactly when or how those property taxes were assessed or why they were assessed. We just receive a small amount of property tax revenues, and we will be separating them out, like Mr. Mosher says, and clarify, is like a general fund, which most cities have, Most of these get, most of their primary revenues is sales tax and property tax, and those property tax revenues is called, a general purpose funds. It means you can pretty much spend it on anything. And we've always in the past dedicated the property tax fund to put in the solid waste fund to help stabilize rates. Now we can put it in the wastewater fund if we want to. If the board wants to do that, we can do that. And that was one of the reasons why the board was able to contribute $100,000 to the shelter, the homeless shelter, using the property tax funds.
That fund is about 200,000.
In our budget, I think, Kaylee said 320,000?
320 for the first year. The second year is 326,000.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding the budget? No?
I have one.
Okay.
Sure.
Just tying into the fact that the solid waste fund and the wastewater fund are two separate entities, could you speak to how salaries and benefits are 9% of solid waste, but they're up to 30.7 for wastewater? Because I assume some of the same employees cover both, so how is that figured out?
Which year, or let me see.
Just in general.
I think
Okay.
the simple answer is CRNR is the major contract, and almost all of the expenses, and we have a lot fewer staff, maybe one staff.
Yeah.
And a few other staff, the finance department and the clerk. But anyway, so we have a very limited number of staff paying attention to that one very large contract. Half the budget is, a little over half the budget is solid waste. And so that's why there's such a small percentage.
So like for salaries and benefits, for example, for my salary and benefits, I'm split 20% to solid waste and 80% of my salaries and benefits toward wastewater. So then for each employee, I will have to go through what's their current rate and project the next 2 years' rate, and then add all their benefits, and then split each employees based on their position. So for example, Nabila, she's in charge of solid waste, all the programs. So then all her salaries will be 100% toward solid waste fund. And for the wastewater crew, they're 100% into wastewater. So for salaries and benefits, it's very time consuming, lots of numbers going in because I have to split between two funds.
But like yourself, you have employees that, like HR, or that would kind of cover both.
Yeah, HR will be 50-50,
Okay.
and like Scott will be 50-50, yeah. Yeah.
The service and maintenance staff associated with the wastewater side is significantly higher, where there's
Right.
virtually zero on the waste, solid waste.
We've got 7 employees in the wastewater division that's 100% funded by the wastewater. That's 7 employees right there. Everyone, and then, like Kayla said, Nabila is the only employee that's pretty much 100% on the solid waste. Everyone else is split, either 50-50 or 80-20, depending on
Employees total?
employees. What's it, 20?
The
20
two
employees?
would cover.
20
20.
employees, yeah. Yeah. And so we have like a code enforcement officer who's part-time, so he's 100% solid waste, but he's part-time. But all the other positions are pretty much split on the salaries.
Any other questions or comments regarding the budget?
That's a very good question.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along in our agenda, what is the Alkaline Battery Recycling Program?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn this over to Nabila Guzman, and she's going to give you a report of our very successful Alkaline Battery Recycling Program, which had its most successful year this year. And so I'm proud to have Nabila speak to you about the success of this year's program.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. This year's battery recycling program, we had 20 schools participate, and they collected a total of 12,662 batteries. The program ran from September to the end of April. And if you scroll up, I think it had the chart with the amount every school collected and the reward they were receiving. This program is very popular, and we attribute it to the board of directors. Last year, they changed the reward schedule. Before, we had a first, second, and third place, and everybody that collected over 50 batteries got $300. Last year, we had 4 schools collect over 1,000, which seemed a little unfair for them to only get $300, so they revised the reward schedule, so now it's based on how much their collection efforts. So we have a first, second, and third place. If they collect over 1,000 batteries, they get $500. And then if they collect over 500, they get $350. So again, the reward is more aligned with their collection efforts. Davis Magnet always wins first place. They're a very environmentally focused school, so they work really hard. They collected 3,233, and then we have some smaller private schools like Page Academy where they only collected 41 pounds all year. This year, this is the 6th year of the program, and the charts below, you can see the growth of the program of how many batteries were collected and how many schools have been participating over the years. So we are very excited. Again, all of these batteries, we keep them out of the landfill, and it's a good educational tool for the students to learn. They get their parents, their community, their friends, their neighbors involved, so it's amazing to see how much they've been collecting over the years. I am available for any questions. Yes?
Can you go back up? I would like to see a number for Sonora.
Oh, okay.
Sonora,
Sonora, 2,000.
And you were over there the other day. I also know that.
2,431.
My daughter runs the PTA over there.
Oh.
I keep pushing. Was it on there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Andrew's wife runs the PTA.
I keep pushing the battery thing with her, so at least I can sit down.
Sonora was doing great. All the pickups, they were first most of the year, and then in the last pickup, Davis Magnet collected over 1,000, which put them over the top. But the entire year, Sonora kept coming in first place.
Okay. Well,
They were doing
I know
amazing.
what I can do.
Yes.
So, Michael, if you see that little battery container you have underneath the window,
gosh.
if all of a sudden it gets emptied and you wonder where they went,
I would think it would go to Davis because they asked me for batteries before.
all right, well, wait a minute. Who on this committee goes to Davis? Got a Sonora person.
Yeah.
So just
just
tell them
F-
it's already been taken care of.
FYI, Andrew's wife is running the PTA for Killybrook, and she's on a mission to win this next year.
Okay,
so
well,
you
she's got competition.
Yes, and at the conclusion of the program, so this month and into next month, myself and one of the board members go to each of the schools and do a check presentation. We have a huge check that we can write in, and the kids always get super excited to see a big check, and we just congratulate them on their efforts and encourage them to try harder the next year. Yes?
I should know this, but what educational efforts do you do on the front end to the schools before the contest starts?
There's a flyer that goes out, and most of these schools have been participating over the last 6 years, so they know who the contractor is. The contractor that picks up these batteries is through CRNR. It's Mercury Disposal, the same that pick up at the OCC Recycling Center. So there's a flyer that goes out that tells them what happens to the batteries and how each element of the battery is recycled and how harmful it can be to the environment. Any other questions? Yes?
I was really bummed to see my local elementary school isn't on here.
Which school is it? Oh, I did reach out this year, but some of the schools just don't have a PTA member, an activities director, somebody that can kind of take charge and be the contact person for the school, but I will reach out to them next year and see if they...
I'm starting to meet some of the PTA moms, so I can talk it up. But
Yes, if you want to be the contact person for the school.
I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, or if you know somebody I can contact, I typically reach out to the principal and let them know this program and how much money they can win and how the program works, and then they usually direct me to someone that wants to kind of be the contact person.
They're almost the closest school to you, too, right?
Right, and they don't participate.
Does anyone know how much an African elephant weighs?
No, Bob, tell
Scroll
us.
that up, scroll that.
Oh, can you scroll that up, please?
There's the number.
Is it-
12,600 pounds, or over 6 tons. That's a visual.
Did you just make that up?
I went to early college, and they knew how much an African elephant weighed.
We're going to fact check that.
Is that your routine, Bob?
Use that in one of your routines, Bob, yeah. Put that on your list of things to talk about.
Yeah, that's,
So because we don't see some schools, that's because they just don't participate.
Right.
I
Before,
don't see Costa, Mesa, Edison up there, and I'm like, those are the only 2 schools I know about, so.
and then I also reached out to Estancia this year, and again, sometimes the
I mean, yes,
this-
honestly, I'm sorry.
enthusiasm is not there. I try to reach out to them at the end of the school year and then before school starts. And sometimes they're overwhelmed with getting everything ready from their classroom, so they say they'll get back to me and they don't.
That makes sense.
wait, actually, could I see Woodland? Is Woodland on there?
Yes, they are. Woodland
pretty good,
got, seventh
Right,
place,
okay.
510 pounds.
Are there any other questions for Nabila? Thank you. The next one's probably you too, right?
It's
Okay.
me too.
So the 2019 compost and clothing donation event.
Yes, on Saturday, April 27th, we had our second annual textile collection event and first annual compost giveaway. We had it at the OCC Recycling Center, so big thanks to Chairman Mike for letting us use his facility for this event. This year for the textile donation, we partnered with Clothes for the Cause. It's a local fundraising nonprofit. They paid the district 10 cents for every pound collected. We had approximately 42 donors come by, and we collected 3,780 pounds of textiles that are being diverted away from the landfill, being repurposed. For clothes that is too worn, they actually work with vendors that use it for like insulation in buildings. So we like the nonprofit that they actually do reduce all the clothes and divert it away from the landfill. So the district will be getting a $380 check that will go towards the battery recycling program next year. And then for the compost portion of it, CRNR provided the free compost from their AD facility, as well as 4 workers, as you can see there, that set up the pallets. And this was a drive-through event, so we put a coupon in the spring newsletter and asked all the residents to bring the coupon plus proof of district residency. And then we asked them to open up the trunk, and we would load the bags onto them. The event was a huge success. The compost, we had about 200 cars, and they were still stopping by as staff was cleaning up, and long after we were gone.
Still stopping by.
They were still stopping by asking to get compost, and even calls on Monday asking if we had compost, if we had saved it here at headquarters. So this is very popular. We did have some minor traffic problems. We weren't expecting the huge crowds. So traffic was spilling onto Adams. So next year, staff is considering having it at a different parking lot at the OCC College, just because safety is a big concern and we don't want anybody getting run over or causing accidents, or possibly the fairgrounds, but I do know both of these places have swap meets on the weekends. So staff is still exploring options to see how we can make the event better next year and allow for more residents to participate. I am free for any questions.
You had some data on the percentage of waste that is textiles?
Yes, so textiles is the second leading pollutant in landfills after plastics, because all of these fast fashion stores that, they just create and bring a lot of clothes from overseas. And also just, I think as humans, we can be very wasteful. Instead of donating, we just dispose of it in our trash cart. So having the textile and partnering with a nonprofit like Clothes for the Cause that makes sure that these textiles are diverted away from the landfills is great. So we can play our part and help our community divert those textiles away from the landfills. And that is the trailer. We got the empty trailer. And a huge shout out to Nalani and Gina for helping me that day and placing all those bags from the recycling center onto the trailer. That was really hard work. Thank you guys.
You guys are still sore, probably. That was a lot of work.
That was a lot of carrying back and forth.
You guys did a great job for that event, everybody involved.
Thank you. Thank you for letting us use the recycling center. Any other questions? Yes?
As far as the donation turnout, how did it compare to last year's? Because I know we moved the timing to try to encourage.
Yes. Last year we had 25 donors. This year we had 42, so there was an increase. We kind of missed the Marie Kondo special on Netflix, so I know people were cleaning out their houses in January, not April. So, that kind of messed up our maybe donations if everybody was cleaning earlier in the year. But right, so hopefully the event, the donors continue to increase, and then the collection as well.
I thought the response from the community for the compost or mulch handout was phenomenal.
Yes,
People
we
really
actually had a lot of residents from South County and Huntington Beach come by with their coupon. They saw it on social media, went to our website, printed it out, and then they would show their Huntington Beach address or their South County address, and I was like, sorry, this is for Costa Mesa only. So,
Did all the compost go?
no.
About half of it, probably.
You should have let
Well, they
those
do-
guys say, come back later and we'll see what we have left over.
They were showing up when the line was really long. So I thought the event was from 9 to noon. So I thought it was going to be like that the entire 4 hours. But CRNR did deliver a flatbed full of mulch. We had over,
Yeah, 27 pallets of mulch.
And 12 or 13 went, and the rest didn't.
Right,
Did CRNR come back and pick it up?
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
All right, it's gone.
I know you're still getting phone calls and,
we still have interest. Of like, we heard you guys had this event. Is there any compost left? No, it's a one-time
yeah, it's-
annual thing. Any other questions? Yes?
I'm just curious, when I saw it, the residency, proof of residency, did they need to verify they were a solid waste resident?
It was really hard to differentiate between a sewer customer or solid waste customer, so as long as it was an address within our district, it was good.
so even multifamily
It's just,
they didn't really, multifamily doesn't typically need mulch, right?
it would just be very difficult for staff to verify on the spot if it's a multifamily or a single-family home. Yeah, it's no problem.
Any other questions or comments for Nabila?
Thank you.
Nabila. Okay, the next item on our agenda is considering appointing 2 CAC members to serve on the Policy Review Ad Hoc Committee.
I'll do that one, do it over here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, committee members. So every so often, the board will appoint an ad hoc committee to review our policies and procedures. And we have 3 documents that we review periodically to make sure they're up to code, up to speed, and determine if we need to make any revisions. Those documents, it includes the administrative regulations, which are more like internal procedures. Then you have the operations code, and that's basically like a municipal code, our law. That's a law. So if someone breaks those codes, those laws, then we can cite them. And then we have our employee handbook, and that's most of the personnel regulations that we have to comply with under state and federal guidelines. And so the committee will meet as long as they need, and they will bring their recommendations back to the board for approval consideration. It's also reviewed by our district councils, making sure everything's kosher. But in the past, it's been Director Perry and Secretary Schaefer. So next week, they're going to appoint 2 board members. It might be those 2, might be another different 2. We'll wait and see. But for tonight, we're requesting that the CEC, the committee, appoint 2 members to serve on this ad hoc committee. The ad hoc committee will comply with the Brown Act, so we will have it posted just like any other CAC meeting. So the public would be invited to attend to hear the discussion. So I just want to let you know that will occur. So we're looking for 2 appointments. Who would want to volunteer to serve on this committee?
I like to volunteer.
Okay.
How much time is it?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's really up to the committee how often they want to meet. It's once a month. It really depends on how much we get done on those meetings. So it's
We change.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it does take a little bit of time from the committee because you got to read through the documents. You got to read through them. So there's a little bit some time on that. So and we expect the committee members to read the documents before they meet, so then we can have that discussion.
What kind of time frame turnaround, like how long are you looking for? Will this be like over the next month or next?
To make the recommendations to the board?
Yeah.
It will take a few months. Definitely a few months. It's we're not gonna be able to go through all documents in one meeting. So it's at least maybe three meetings at the most, because maybe a meeting per document, because they're long. There's a lot of stuff to read.
I'll do it.
Okay. So should we take have a motion and then a second? So we have an official nomination?
Okay, yeah, so we have a nomination for Steve Takahashi, I'm sorry, first time, and Monty Fields. All those in favor of, that?
Yeah, action would be great. Yes, thank you.
So, okay, second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Great.
Thank you all for volunteering.
Thank you very much. So I'll have Nolanda will reach out to you. Once we find out which board members are serve on the committee, Nolanda will reach out to the committee, and we'll try to find the best time and date for everyone to meet. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is considering, topics, 2019 topics to be discussed at future CAC meetings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So according to our CAC handbook, every year the general manager and the chairman will meet with the president and will discuss future topics for the CAC. So just recently, Chairman Carey and myself met with President Fairman, and we came up with a list that's attached before you today. These are some of the items that we came up with. Now, these items aren't again, etched in stone. If there's any items you think we're missing, please let us know. We can add to the list, and please be advised that the dates could change. So, like on July, we have the citizen survey question. Well, we might put that on September, depending on how fast we can get a consultant. So, but these are some of the topics that we discussed, and looking for your direction if there's any other topics you want to talk about in the future.
I had a question on one.
Yes.
The evolving recycling market, is that regarding China and second?
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
I don't know if it would be a subset of that, but would it be possible to discuss the concept of a minimum diversion rate?
A minimum diversion. Can you further explain?
It blew my mind last year that the concept that people are putting things in blue, I know our district, we do the mixed waste, but that some have the recycling bins, and that not everything you're putting in there to be recycled is automatically being recycled in theory. If your waste hauler only meets their minimum, some of it would in theory be going into a landfill.
I see what you're saying.
I don't know if there's more to say on the topic, but that seemed shocking to me, because if you really want your things to be recycled or to...
Well, why don't we bring Representative CRNR here to talk about that for you, and they can share with you what they're putting in the landfill and what they're not, so that we can do that. That's good. That'd be good discussion. Sure.
And the increased diversion mandates by the state that are implemented in 2020, next year too.
Yeah. Okay.
I thought you had that on there last year. In 2020, there has to be 75% diversion, but they don't use diversion anymore. They use pounds per capita.
Right.
I think I need an explanation of that.
Well, right now, we're at
Periodically.
61%.
Yeah, and the goal of the regulation is 75%, but it's not really 75%. It's pounds per capita.
Pounds per capita based on a baseline
Some
that's,
baseline number.
right.
But I need an explanation of that continuously.
And none of the cities are able to comply with it.
No.
There's no composting capabilities.
In any other city, that's going to be the difficult part in 2020, the organics component of that.
I think CRNR gave this presentation sometime back, and some of that was in there, not necessarily correct, but it was in there. in the presentation.
Mhm.
So I think we should put this manager's goals up on there.
Okay. So again, if you can't think of things today, just let us know. If there's an item that come up, you can call me or Chairman Carey, and we could put this on the item or on the agenda. It's not a problem.
Is everybody comfortable with the topics that we have slated for July, at least, for our next meeting?
Yeah, I just had a quick question. Can you just quickly explain, not too much in detail, but the solid waste recycling plan for multifamily and the inflow reduction program?
Sure. So the solid waste, so right now Nabila's working on a plan to potentially take over the collections at the multifamily units. Right now it's done by the city.
Condo, not like.
Condos, apartments, condos, yes. And they're currently being done by up to 6 haulers. And there's new laws coming into place next year that we think we can help the city comply with. I think you've heard committee member Sue Lester complain about some of the services she gets at her complex, and she wishes she was one of our customers. She's not one of our customers. So there is a plan to present that to the city, eventually to you and to the board and to the city council, and maybe hopefully we can come to an agreement and take over that. So that was our thing, and maybe Nabila can kind of share with her some ideas what we're talking about and get your feedback if you think that's in the right direction.
Yeah, I do remember you did mention that before.
Great. So inflow is basically water getting into the sewer system, more specific rainwater, right? And so the reason why you want to prevent rainwater coming in your sewer system, because if you have more water coming in the system, it's going to inundate the treatment facilities. It's going to back up the treatment facility, which ends up having a backup in your sewer system. So you want to prevent inflow coming in. During these we had, in February and January, December, we had 3 significant storms. And our goal is always to have a rain ingress of less than 2% in our wastewater system. And prior to those big storms, we've always been successful in achieving that. Well, these last 3 storms, we went way over the 2%, and we're just baffled why that is. And so we had a meeting today with an engineer trying to strategize where we think the water is coming from, how do we mitigate it. And so that was the idea for the July, is tell you, this is our plan. You know, what do you think? Do you think we're going in the right directions? We would like your feedback. Think we're going in the right direction or not? So that's what that is.
So the rainwater, as of right now, is diverted somewhere else. It's not in the sewer.
No, it still goes in the sewer. Yeah. So like the pick holes, you see in the manhole covers, they go in there or around the outer parts of the manhole. So we do plug and seal a lot of our manhole covers, but we don't want to plug and seal all of them because the sewers do produce gases, and so if you seal them all, then you're going to have lids exploding up, right? And we don't want that. So what we do know where all the we have a map of the map from the city of all the streets that are prone to flood. And so we made sure all those manholes in those streets that are prone to flood are plugged and sealed. So again, it just kind of baffles us that why we went way over that 2%. It could be coming from the fairgrounds, we think. We don't know, but that's what we're trying to find out.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So those sidewalk drainage systems are not.
That goes in the storm drain.
They're going out to the river.
Yeah, they aren't associated with the manhole cover.
No, that's storm drain. That goes out into the ocean. Yeah. Yeah. So those that you see in the sidewalks, that's called a storm drain. That goes out into the ocean, and that's the city is responsible for making sure those storm drains are cleaned out before a storm arrives.
I've been watching too much Ninja Turtles then.
Yeah, if you look on the manholes, some of them are water, some of them are sewers, some of them are storm drain.
Yeah.
You can tell by reading the covers if you go around reading covers.
Yeah.
It'll say drain, which is a storm drain, and it'll say sewer or sanitary sewer, which is our system.
A lot of them will say drains to ocean. They're trying to prevent people from throwing stuff down there.
The Boy Scouts have put little signs up that this, do not dump whatever this drains to the ocean.
Yeah. It's going out to the river.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions or comments about the future meetings? Or at least topics for the future meetings? No? Good, okay. Again, share any updates or any agenda items that you are interested in for consideration to either
Definitely.
Scott or I.
Definitely.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is considering rescheduling the days of our CAC meetings.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, committee member Sue Lester has provided her written comments regarding this item. I have placed them on your table there. It is via email, so if you'll take a moment to just consider her comments and add that to the record.
Okay, does anyone else on the committee have any recommendations, suggestions, or input or preference of?
Me
when-
personally, whatever you guys can work out's fine with me. I don't have a job or anything, so I don't care. You know, I can come any night.
But in regards to Wednesdays, is the way it reads, is it may change for you that you may be able to do Wednesdays at some point in time? Or is she assuming a bit too much?
Well, I have a potential conflict on Wednesdays. I'm teaching a class on Wednesdays. It may or may not happen in the fall semester. I won't know until probably August. And Ms. Lester has a conflict on Thursdays. We had talked about possibly offering up the possibility of doing Thursdays on 2 week separation from the board meetings. So the board meetings are on Thursdays.
Well, the board they might change their
They might
dates.
change-
Yeah,
right.
so.
And I don't know if this would be a conflict with anything. I know when we first started this, one of the first things I brought up is we have several members of the Lions Club on the board and in the committee, and we meet on Tuesdays. Well, we meet on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. Okay, that leaves the second and fourth Tuesday available for him, me, him, Sue, you know, all of us. So if those two, it could be worked out, second or fourth Tuesday of the month, I think that would work for us guys that are in the Lions Club.
Okay.
So
With your classes, are the classes Tuesday and Thursday?
No, mine are on Wednesday. That's why I've been mine are Wednesdays from 6 to 9:30. Yes.
I have a commitment on the second Tuesday of the month.
So yours are
Yours is first and third,
first and
right?
third,
yours are first and
fourth Tuesday of the month. Make it
Fourth
then,
Tuesday.
if that works for everybody.
All right.
If that's not too hard to figure out, you can do it.
Should we consider postponing until?
Go through your
Yeah,
calendar.
yeah, I agree.
Every fourth Tuesday, put it.
Right.
We could do that too.
Yeah.
Well, then if we postpone it, then when do you want, because this is typically do you want to go back to Wednesday, our next, so the next meeting will be in
July 10th.
Yeah.
July 10th. So you won't be going out in classes, we can
Oh.
put it back on Wednesday if you want on July.
Yeah, I'm at a conference on that Wednesday, but I could do, I know. I'm
So Wednesday's not good for you.
You guys should kick me off.
So,
I could do the Thursday of July.
What about the following Wednesday? So she.
Well, that's fine. I don't know if that conflicts with board.
For Phil and for
the following Wednesday, so it'll be the
Third Wednesday?
third Wednesday?
July 17th?
Yes?
Okay.
just because.
Can we do that, and then we can take a full vote?
And then by then we will know what the board set too. The board was they might change their date and time too.
And I might know my schedule too.
So
So come prepared to fight it out.
What day of the
on-
week does the board meet?
So do you still want to stick at the same time? Do you want to do earlier? It's
One-
6 o'clock?
There's so many
6 o'clock, okay.
places,
And change it, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe we just designate something and see how many numbers can make it.
Yeah.
Okay, So why don't we set it for the third Wednesday in July? Or, yeah, third Wednesday in
Wednesday.
July, 6 o'clock. Everybody come prepared with their preferred date and time. We can have a vote for
If
it.
nothing else, we can set the next date and time in
Right,
July.
yeah.
Do it that way.
Since we're doing every 2
Yeah.
months anyway. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for your flexibility.
We'll all bring our calendars.
Yes, please do. Heck, I might retire by then, too, so. One
No,
day at
we're
a
here
time.
for life.
One day at a time, yeah. I'll make it. Okay, closing items. Committee member and staff comments.
I got somewhere to be, so let's go.
Elodie?
I had one.
Oh, my
just,
cocktail hour.
I was curious regarding the solid waste rate increase, if that'll be publicized in the newsletter, the next newsletter, pending the results, of course. Yes. I was wondering if it would be possible to mention that this hasn't changed, but kind of couching it in with the rate increase, that everyone at no additional cost is allowed to get 2 organic waste bins. Because I can't tell you how many times I've seen neighbors, they do a big gardening day and they fill up their 1 organic bin and then they fill up another one in the mixed waste, and it's just heartbreaking because they could have a second organic bin, and I don't think most people are aware of that. And since it is a rate increase, it might be nice to mention that there's a benefit that they may not have been aware of. Yeah, just wanted to mention that. And it might help, I know, I forget who mentioned it at the board of directors meeting, but trying to raise the diversion rate, maybe that would help a bit. Thank you.
CR&R does take that waste that gets in the mixed carts.
Do they take
And
it?
they do separate it.
Do they? Oh, I thought they didn't.
I don't know how effectively they separate it. but
depends on-
They do take the green waste out. I think it has historically gone to the landfill. Now,
Right.
Now it goes,
It does go to
they
the-
do,
It was-
they do a partial separation.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's in the mixed waste, it all depends how contaminated it is, because they can't put contamination in AD. So they'll take what they can, but that's why you want to keep it in the green waste, the green bin, to keep it clean.
Sure.
To keep both things clean, yeah. Any other committee member comments? No? Staff?
I'd just like to say, thank you for your time that you're dedicating to this kind of information. And, you know, we've got an open mind, board of directors do, as well as the staff. And don't be afraid to bring us anything, and we'll deal with it and take it under consideration. So, thank you.
Thank you, President Ferryman. So hearing no other comments or staff questions or comments, we'll adjourn this meeting at 7:15. Wow, this was very efficient.
7:13.
7, yeah.